Hi, I'm Preston Williams, and welcome to another edition of Jazz Talk. Today on our show, we're joined by one of the most accomplished musicians in music today. This gentleman has been around for over 30 years and has worked with many greats from Dizzy Gillespie to Betty Carter, Abbey Lincoln, so many. Erykah Badu, Lauryn Hill, Roy Hargrove, I can go on and on. Cindy Blackman Santana. He is a pianist, composer, and educator. Please welcome to Jazz Talk, the legend himself, Mr. Marc Cary. Brother, what's going on?
Oh, well, I'm just happy to be here. I'm glad we get to spend this time together, and
Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, like I said, as I said, man, you've been on the scene for quite a while. You've had quite an illustrious career for over 30 years, and you've worked with so many people under the sun. But I'm interested in knowing about your humble beginnings, man, how this all started. Now, I understand that you were born in New York, and then you moved to Washington, D.C., and grew up there. Tell me about family life. I understand that you're one of five kids, and your family, your parents are also musicians, man. Talk to me about that.
well, the short, I mean, it's a lot of days in a year and a lot of hours in a day. So I try to get you there quick. Born in New York City for the first couple years of my life. My mom and dad are from Providence, Rhode Island.
Okay.
My grandfather settled in Providence after the Navy, and met my grandmother, who are all Native people, Native Americans, Wampanoag, and so my great grandmother, was settled there, and she was married. She was just born in slavery, and she,
Wow.
yeah, so she experienced that, and I knew her till she was 100, and she died at about 102. Anyway, that's why everyone was there. And then so my grandmother and grandfather, were very strict. So my mother had to leave town to have me in New York. And
Yeah.
man, my mother wasn't married at that time, and
Mhm.
my father and mother got married, but they're Providence people. So we moved back to Providence after New York. From Providence, we things didn't work out with my parents, so we moved my mother into the arts. She's a dancer and cellist at the time,
Yeah.
and she's also a visual artist.
Yes,
That
you're a painter. Yeah.
painter makes jewelry. So I spent a lot of my life as the son of a vendor of craft.
Hmm.
So I spent, grew up on the corners of some of the slick parts of DC.
Yeah.
She was under the tutelage of a guy named wow. You know what? We'll go back, and I'll go back because I don't
Sure,
have
sure.
Muslim brother. Very traditional, which is kind of where I got my first insight into Islam, which I'm very.
Yeah.
But anyway, she grew up, kind of came up under his tutelage as a craftsman of fine jewelry. And so I watched her just kind of like take on a lot of different things. So she met my stepfather, who had two children, and from there they had two children. That's how I'm a child of five.
Gotcha. Yeah. Now,
But
I wanted to ask you something real quick, man. You mentioned about your mother. Now, I understand your dad was a musician too, a percussionist or something like that.
yeah, Oliver Carey, yeah, he's
Yeah.
a percussionist. He please recorded on the record. Listen, he's on that record.
Mm.
He's been in the band. And my stepfather, Wayne Williams, who's
Yeah. Played with Cootie Williams, didn't he?
well, my grandfather played with Cootie Williams, and he's
Ah.
the first cousin of Cootie Williams. So my
Mm.
mother's father, who I knew very well, Otis Gamble, they were all in the Navy. They're from Alabama. So my grandfather was sent up north to stay with Cootie's folks.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's how they got, you know, and they went to the Navy from there. So like my grandfather hosted at his house people like Tommy Flanagan and Ella. Those were his friends. Duke
Wow.
Ellington, Duke Ellington was calling him to be a part of the orchestra, but my mother was born, and my grandfather is a family man, and so he took his chances being a local in Providence and having a union band. and they would basically do they cover all the cats that came to town. They'd be the orchestra that played in Providence. That's how you ended up, hosting all these cats. So, because a lot, it's hard for us to move around back then. The places to stay,
Mhm.
where you gonna eat, So it wasn't desegregated yet.
Yeah, interesting. I was going to ask you. I guess during that time period, and I guess coming up as a kid, you were exposed to so much music, and of course, being from DC, go-go is huge. I'm thinking of Chuck Brown and the Soul Searchers, Trouble Funk, and all these groups. So you were listening to everything, I guess, that in jazz. Now, how did you find the piano, man? How did you get involved with that? Why'd you pick piano?
Well, I got to the piano in the go-go band. Uh,
Oh,
I had the instrument. I had a Fender. Well, we had an electric piano, very similar to a piece of furniture in
hmm,
the house. It wasn't wood. It was made of like pressed wood or something like that. But it was dope. It's an electric piano. And then my stepfather played chess with a gentleman who later brought, I guess he won, and he brought the Fender Rhodes to the house. So I had a Fender Rhodes was there. But I had started a go-go band at a very young age because of the economy of it, for one, and also I love the go-go. So the organization of people bringing economy to them, and we bring in music to the different school dances, and we did battle of the bands and things like that. Uh, that was on buckets and trumpet. I went from buckets to trumpet to drums to piano in that band, and because I wanted the best band. So
my
I was
integrity, right?
yeah, yeah, I integrity band itself. I wasn't trying to just be the baddest drummer. I was like, I want the baddest drummer in the band. So
Right.
you take the drums, I'll play trumpet. And so I went to trumpet, and then like we've got a horn section that could really play, could read and shit. I was like, okay, I'll go to keys, because I had these instruments. We rehearsed at my house, so I ended up on keys, and I found myself very comfortable there. I could really actually move. And then my aunt, who started to see my talent, and the neighbor across the street, Keith Jensen, had an acoustic piano, and I delivered papers to him. So once I got interested in the piano, he had a roommate, that his family took care of as well. He had two children, Mark and I had three children, Mark, Danny, and his daughter. Um, they were kind of like leaving the house at this point, and they brought in a blind pianist. Vernon.
Hmm.
Vernon could hear anything. So between Keith, who was a postman that played bass on the side, he was like a wannabe jazzman, but he could knew enough bass he could play any standard. He just couldn't tell you what he was playing. Like if you started, he'd be like, "Oh, I know that song," and just start playing it. And he had one lung. Yeah, he had lost a lung, and retired from the post office at this time, and he was just living through me, like vicariously. Like my growth was such a big deal for him because he gave me when Vernon got the first little compact keyboard, he gave me Vernon's Wurlitzer because it was too big to move. Vernon was like he's blind, so he was getting he had the whole orchestra. Like one of those little Yamaha keyboards came out with the drums on it. He had a bossa nova beat. He could program the bass and play his keys, so he was fine with that. The Wurlitzer was nothing to him. I took the Wurlitzer, and that was my gigging piano.
Man,
And
that's great, man.
yeah, this is look, man. The neighborhood raised me in music, man. People found out because I was also a wild kid, so I think anyone that could kind of participate and maybe giving me a good bit of guidance, because it all came to a head around the age of 15, where I had to go away for about a year and a half, and that's where I really discovered me. I discovered who Marc Cary was at the age of 15. Like I was dumped, not dumped, but the car door opened, I was pushed out, and then people grabbed me, and then I was in there. And
Yeah.
I had to go through the whole process as the same process as the people that had been doctors and lost their families to heroin and cocaine. I was in there with them. I didn't have these issues. My issue was I was socially inept. I didn't know how to stay in school and not sell weed in school and be an entrepreneur. I was trying to be an entrepreneur at every level. I had paper route. I did all the snow shoveling. 'Cause
Mowed lawns too, didn't you?
lawns. I did the leaves. I had a band. You know, I mean, like I was doing public service announcements. You know, trying to winning the I won the contest to do a public service announcement for PCP. Back then, it was a big deal, like Love Boat. So we used
Hmm.
go-go beat, and my band did it, and I did the lyrics. I was under the tutelage of see, every time I go for a name, it starts getting further and further away. My teacher, he passed away too. One of the baddest poets, poet laureate at one time.
It'll come back to you, man. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Boy, you be reaching for the information sometimes it's not there. It's
Yeah.
Rusty Hassan's man. I put Rusty in there and we'll find him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But I was going to ask you, but so I guess by the time what you were 14, you started going to the Duke Ellington Performing Arts School.
Well, it was okay. So that's a little twist. 14, I was in rehab, just about going
Okay.
to rehab. At the age
Okay.
of 15 and a half, I was starting to prepare for Duke Ellington. I got into Duke Ellington when I was 16.
Hmm.
So I was 2 years behind everybody. I went back to school, you know, and to get my degree, finish my diploma, you know.
That's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. So I guess what you're honing your skills, you're probably learning so much in there, and eventually, what
I'm a badass piano player too, Daniel Witt.
Daniel? Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Played with all the old doo-wop groups and the R&B groups. See, the real R&B groups, Delphonics and them cats, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And he
Mm-hmm.
play keys, and like he's a mastermind. He's still around. He's still we still talk to this day.
Wow, that's beautiful, man. So interestingly enough, let's speed it up a little. I was going to say, Mark, I guess by the what the mid 80s, early 90s, you make that move to New York. Man, one of the things that was impressive to me, how in the world did you hook up with Dizzy Gillespie? Because I guess you probably played with him not too long before he passed, because I think he passed in 93, but how'd you meet Dizzy, man, and get to work with
I
him?
have played with him years before he passed. I
Oh,
played
wow.
with Dizzy Gillespie's youth orchestra.
Oh, wow.
Blues Alley. It was housed at Blues Alley. I did Dizzy Gillespie's 70th anniversary at Wolf Trap. His 70th birthday. I was there with all the cats. Curtis Fuller, Steve Teray, Clark Terry, Wallace Roney, all these cats that I would soon come to know. And I got
Wow.
to know them through that but they come through Duke Ellington as well. Wynton Marcellus was there, John Faddis, everybody. Like, you know, Arturo, all the cast that was just coming in. And this was 85.
That's incredible, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm sitting, I show you a video. I'm patting Dizzy on the back of his shoulder when he blew out the candles at the end of the 2 hour set. I'm right next to Dizzy. I got the little schoolboy glasses on. And I was his man. Like Dizzy gave me his solo break for Night Tunisia. So like Blues Alley had the Blues Alley Dizzy Gillespie Youth Orchestra, and the band. I got in it because I was already in a group called the Frontline Jazz Ensemble, and they just took us and put us in the band as the band within the band. Like we
Hmm.
were the rhythm section and two of the horn players, lead trombone and second chair trombone. I mean, alto and second chair trombone, because that was the front line, alto and trombone.
Incredible, man. I'm just sitting here blown away. I mean,
You know?
yeah, 17 years old and being exposed to all of these giants, man. That's incredible. Dizzy Gillespie.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's where I met my teacher, Walter Davis Jr. Dizzy was like, "Yo, Walter, I need you to get him." So Walter got me, and then I met Mulgrew when he was playing with Tony Williams's band. I
Yeah.
was down there greeting them cats when they came to town.
Yeah.
Cool, you know. So Gail Dixon was a big deal. She was the lady that kind of made sure that all the dopest children that was destined to do this music met the masters, and she also got the masters to the school. But she also made sure that I got tickets to these events, you know, everywhere. You know, so like Michelle and Degacello and I grew up together playing.
Yeah. She's from DC. You just made me think of something, man. You know, your background is similar to Ira Coleman, the bass player. You know how you talked about your mother making jewelry. Ira's mother was a silversmith, and he was telling me the people that came to his house were like, Charles Mingus, Louis Armstrong, Billie Holiday, and even Picasso would come there and hang out,
Taylor,
man.
that's the connection between Ira and I played both in AT's band. AT is Ira's father's best friend.
Wow.
AT lived like that he was there at Ira's house as a kid. That's why he grabbed Ira before he got to Tony's band. So in the early '80s, we're playing I played with AT's band till he died. From the time I got to New York till he died. He
Hmm.
fired me when I got in Roy's band, and the day I left, he rehired me and fired Jackie. He said, Jackie,
Well,
yeah, I ain't gonna tell you what he said, but yeah, but he was like, Mark, I want you in the band anyway. Larry Willis, that was my spot. Larry gave me that spot.
Larry Willis. Hey, man, tell me about Jackie McLean, man. What was it like working with him?
Man, Jackie was so deep, man. Well, first of all, when I worked with Jackie, I was taking the place. I was subbing for my boy Alan Palmer, Ahmed.
Mm,
Ahmed couldn't make some of the gigs or whatever, or Jackie called me, whatever. It's always Ahmed's gig in my mind. So, I was very happy to help out in that way. But Jackie was AT's boy. So I
mm.
was in AT's band, Arthur Taylor's, and they used to talk on the phone all the time. So I used to hear all the banter. So by the time Jackie called me, I was all nervous and shit because I heard all the banter, man. Like
Yeah,
Jackie would call AT on his birthday and say some of the foulest stuff to him, but that's how they talk to each other. As it was the preparation for going downtown. They carried that stuff until they died.
yeah,
Like the joning on each other and the dozens. That was a purposeful. That was so you didn't go downtown and lose your cool when one of the white folks call you a nigger.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
they call each other all kind of stuff. Your mama this, your daddy that. But so I heard all them jokes. So anyway, Jackie was like, "Look, I need you to do this gig," and Jackie had he was shaking, had like little light shakes. Shit, I didn't know he had shakes, but he came up to me just before the gig. He was like, "Man, you know the music?" I was like, "Oh shit!" And he was shaking like, "Man, I don't know if you know it." And I started shaking. I was like, "Oh shit!" No, I mean I blew it out, man. But he made me nervous. Like
Yeah.
Jackie, he was serious about the music and the lines. Like so, playing with Jackie was deep because although playing with AT was deep, but it was coming from a rhythm section. Like this is how the rhythm plays. But when you talk to Jackie, he's talking about the intricacy of what Bud was doing,
Yeah.
not from the drum chair. Because AT didn't play much piano. He knew the rhythm. He knew all the rhythms. He knew all the hits. So if it's a hit or a song that was in discrepancy or form of it, he could tell you that. But as far as the notes, what was the little things? And Jackie was into that. They all studied with Bud and Monk.
That's
So
right.
he would break that stuff down. He would talk about the snakes, the lines, calling them snakes, how they move. A snake moves through the grass like that. That's how they move their lines through the changes. So he'd always ask me, "You been working on your snakes?" So that's the kind of banter and just the way they dealt with the culture and how they passed it on and some of it they weren't as I would say they didn't tell you exactly what it was. They told you that it existed, and the discovery is deep when you find it, and it's almost like you want to keep it to yourself, but
Yeah.
better you don't because you want more people to understand. You want to develop listeners to understand what you're doing, and also you want other artists to get this so that the level goes up in the music. Because a lot of people are guessing how the music goes based on Western harmony. They're using Western harmony to figure it out, and that's how you keep coming up with all these kind of crossbreeds of what jazz should be. Even though they're intending to do it, they keep coming short because they can't connect
Yeah.
circle. It really works like this. Everything is connected. It's all connecting. It's never like this. Oh, let me put that with that. No, that shit's always like, woo,
Right.
just moving like that. So you gotta
Yeah.
understand. That's how we created it. We added something. And that's it's very specific what we added. I'm not gonna blow it
Mhm.
out, but I'll tell you when we get offline. If people want to know, we could talk about these things, and the knowledge is there. But it's a very small thing, and that one thing made such a big change.
That's beautiful, man.
It's always been
Beautiful.
there, but we identify the whole system as one, as opposed to how they do us. They like put a bell between every class and say, "Ding! Now you go to math. Ding! Now you go." But really, it should be it should be organic. It should be math and music go together. Science, it's all one.
It's all one, man. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not confusing.
You
That's
know,
why they
Mark,
charge you all that money.
hey man, I wanted to ask you about a very special lady. Talked to countless musicians about her. I've had many on the show, from Cyrus Chestnut to Curtis Lundy, and others. Betty Carter, who's an institution in and of herself. Man, how'd you get to work with Betty? What was that experience like? Because still to this day, 20 something years after her passing, her influence is still felt. People still talk about her, man.
You know something, man? I really appreciate you saying that, man, because I've had a booking agent. Yeah, I'm not gonna name any names, and it's a European booking agent, man, in one of the northern countries. And this cat was like, he did a half-ass job booking us when we got there, and realized he didn't do any kind of promotion. And then he says, Mark is not that relevant. No one cares that he played with Betty Carter and Abby Lincoln. You know what I mean? Like, these people would try to wipe your whole existence out and put it in some little box that they can put in their pocket or and pull out when they want to, and just tuck it away when they don't feel like dealing with it.
Yeah.
But that's not how the music goes, and the thing that Betty Carter and these women brought to the stage and to the music is far beyond just their musical contributions. It's the etiquette. It's the understanding that the band needs to be paid. It's the understanding that the show must go on, and that their names are on the marquee, and that they have to own their shit, their intellectual property, and that they can lease it to the world instead of giving it for perpetuity to the world. Like, they hit me to perpetuity, owning your stuff, and don't give people to watch that word that says perpetuity, because that means forever, in whatever form, in whatever terrestrial or extraterrestrial way. So no, this information came a lot through them, because the guys, they just be ready to take a gig in most circumstances. Some of them really did put up a fight, but as far as the women had to be trailblazers for all the reasons, like because they're women in the first place,
Mhm.
and nobody's gonna take them serious, or did take them serious, until they had their own production and were actually employing the man and take care of their families. So what I learned is how to take care of the band, how to choose and how to pick people to be in your organization that actually will help move things forward. Is you make mistakes and things, but at least to know what to look for, or to have a guide, like, because they picked really good people, and not just because they were talented, and they you could be a lot. I tell you what, she's a businesswoman. All
Mhm.
right. Ran an organization that was known to be the best because she chose the best. Da da dee da da dum. So it was like a machine. You get a year and a half in that band, and you're out. And then she take her chance on the next young cat who she already been checking out. So to stay in that band means you have to be pushing somebody else's normal start point back, because you're just too good to be let go. So I was that guy. I did 2.5 years in her band. I pushed somebody else's start time back a little bit because it was just too important to keep me in the band at that time, which I'm very thankful for, because I got to record with her.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting. I was talking to Cyrus Chestnut, and he was telling me a story that about Betty. It was a scary story how he played with her one time and ended up playing in the wrong key. And he says, "Oh my gosh," he was like scared and everything. But she said, "Yeah, I like you. I really, really like what you're doing." And he said that really gave him that the I guess the wherewithal just to keep going. And musically, I guess he learned so much from her. But I've heard countless stories, Curtis Lundy and others, just talking about working with her on the bandstand. Betty is just
Yeah,
to
well,
it.
Cyrus came after me.
Okay.
He had it good. Cassie came before me, had it rough, because she was still telling Cass, "Yeah, we got a tour in Europe. I'll see you there." And so that's when Bernard Harper and them cats went. So Bernard was the guy that would organize the band and get the tickets, book the hotels, and they'd show up. You see, and they'd be the band. You see, So by the time I got in the band, it was carte blanche. She had hotels for the bands, our tickets. We get a whole booklet of tickets, and that you got to responsible for your travel for the rest of the tour. You got to keep that booklet right here. At each next day, because we was on a 6 weeks of one nighters. My first tour with her was 6 weeks of one nighters.
Hmm.
When I did the audition, you asked me how I got in her band. She had already been looking for me or the next pianist and found out about me. Probably came and checked me out when I didn't even know. So she called for me, and I went to the audition. There's a lot going on. I went to the audition, and she asked me halfway through. She said, "You got your passport?" And I was like, "No, I'm working on getting that now." She was like, "Yeah, okay, I'll take you to get your passport." And she was like, literally took me to that passport agency, walked me through the whole system, made sure that shit was stamped, and she knew the date I was getting my stuff. Paid the extra $100. We waited, got my shit. And then she said, "Do you got a suit?" She asked me if I had a suit. And I was like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, I got a suit." She's like, "Yeah, okay, I'll take you to get a suit." Literally took me to get a suit and fitted me like, yeah, that looks good on him. Turn around, like literally. I don't think she did this for everybody. You see what I mean? Like this was very specific. Arthur Taylor did these kind of things. We had uniforms, so, but he was very specific. He would only buy the shit that was on the coupon. So he had that one guy. Yeah, he be cutting the coupons out the paper and shit. Like be like, all right, we're going to get some shirts, and we go down to the store. You're never gonna get what's on the coupon. Well,
Right.
he fighting the people. Nah, man, I want this shit right here because they trying to show you the other rack. He's like, nah. And so we get to that rack, ain't but two colors left, mustard and green. He's like, all right, it's two mustards and three greens. You get who wants mustard? So, I mean, these cats was like they wanted uniform, but they also came from a time where you don't spend a lot of money. And Betty was like, I want my shit, my guys to look tight. If I ask you if you have a suit and you kind of fluff, I'm going to take you to get a suit, and you better take care of that suit.
Your story sounds exactly to a T like Miles Davis. Wayne Shorter and them were saying the same thing when they met Miles. You have a tailor, or he's checking out young musicians. Herbie says, I heard that Miles was looking for me and I didn't even know about it. He was checking out, young talent, and always it's the same thing. Maybe Betty learned
Betty
those lessons from Miles, because I know those two were very close friends
loved
too.
him. She loved him, and she learned. She studied Miles. Art Blakey. She got this Benny Carter, Lionel Hampton. Like these. This is what these cats did.
Mm-hmm.
Billy Eckstein. Like these cats went out. All them cats went through Billy's band. All of them went through Lionel Hampton's band.
Mm-hmm.
Dizzy went through Lionel Hampton's band and these cats' bands. So like.
Incredible, man. Incredible. Yeah. But I still listen to Betty Carter quite a bit. I was just listening to a thing that she did on NPR. It was a special on her many years ago, but yeah, just the stories. And Ira Coleman was telling me, he says, Preston, he says, I struggled playing with her. He says, I went to her one time. He says, look, Betty, I don't think I'm doing well. Maybe I should, quit or whatever. But he struggled, he told me. So I guess it's coming through her, going through that Betty Carter school is in and of itself one heck of an experience. All
Besides, I'm sorry. I just want to add
No, no,
one.
no. Please continue. I want to hear this.
He was like training for the Olympics, whereas
Hmm.
other musicians don't necessarily need you to be playing doing your maximum physicality. They need you to think more. Well, she needed you to think 100% and be physical 100%. She needed your full maximum capacity, spiritually, everything. Some people just need to tap into certain parts and need you to put all the energy from the other parts into those. So Abby said, listen, I don't need all that. Just give it to me in a chord. So all that shit that Betty was like, come on. And she stopped the band on you. She'd be like, tempo be up here. She'd be like, come on. And she stopped the band. And then you just leave you. Come on, no, you go. And you be like, until you about to break, and then she say, alright, and then be like, oh, band. And you be like, whoa. Band come back in, But by the time they come back in, they scared as hell too, because they just, you know what I mean? So everybody's like, oh shit. And then she's next song, bam, right in the next song. You ain't gonna have no time to be flipping through the book trying to find what's the next song. What song she playing now? You better know the book. The book is not to be looked at. The book is to be learned. Leave it at home because I'm calling what I want when I want it.
Wow,
Ain't no set list.
that's
That's how that,
incredible, man.
that's how that shit was when I got in the band. Like half them songs I just had to learn on the spot. Even though I had the book there, I didn't have time to flip through 120 pages of songs that have already been rewritten. Each musician putting a little note on it, like she don't want that chord no more. She want this one. I'm like, man,
Mark, I can imagine. I'm sure they were probably nice. You're just trying to feel your way through that playing, like, oh my gosh, am I in the right key or what?
that's the shit though, because that's when Betty looks at you and is like, yeah, there he is, and she can go pip and you go pop, and she's like, I got your ass now. That's it's like you're not looking for a book. What hit? Where was that hit? What's the? Oh no, you bip. I should care 2, 3, 4, bang 5, 4. I should let it upset me. Dun, 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 dun. Like she like 7. She called meters on you. You might be playing a song as a ballad for 2 months, and then tonight you want to play it in 7, up tempo. Come on, right here. How can you decide? How can you make that work right now? Because she would say, I feel like I'm up here babysitting right now. On the mic, she had an open mic. That was the threat.
Unbelievable. And I guess, Mark, after working with someone like that, I guess you were just prepared for whatever would come next. After working with an artist like that, I guess other artists that you ended up working with afterwards, you were like, this is probably easier for you. Because, I mean,
that would be a miss. That would be very bad on
really,
yeah. Imagine going to the next. So, unfortunately, we all have gone through a lot of people in our lives. And the lessons we learned are many because it's not just one. It's not like the first person taught you all the lessons you need to know about the next one. In
right.
fact, this is a whole new set of lessons. There's some moral things that you learn. There's etiquette that you learn from these people that is just never goes away. But what you learn from you learn what someone is needing in their music. You get in Abby's band and she's like, listen, I know you play with Betty and I love Betty, but this ain't Betty's fucking band. This is my band and this is how I want the shit to go.
Wow.
I picked you because you was in Betty's band because you could do whatever. So look, I don't need that. Ain't nobody here. That's the kind of shit Abby would say to me. What's all that for? Ain't nobody here. It's a simple song. Oh my God. I just came from a band. If I played like that, she'd be like, what the hell's wrong with you tonight? You see what I mean? So that the lessons don't work. It just shows you extremes. So now I can say, well, I know how it is to work with somebody like that, and I wouldn't do it again. Like I'm not gonna I'm not set and molded now because that would only work with Betty. Somebody else tried to pull that shit with me, I wouldn't even go for it. That's why you don't see me everywhere. I'm like, nah. Betty could demand that because she didn't say nothing. She sang it. And it's like, you didn't play nothing. That's your ass. Other people be like, I want you to do this. It's like, oh, shut up and just sing it. Because that's how we got to our stuff. It wasn't about no discussion.
Right.
Discussion came after she sang it and you didn't play it. She's like, remember when I did that thing on the thing? What the hell's going wrong with you? You didn't respond to that. Musical reflexes. That shit you get, that stays with you. The reflex of doing something. You know what I mean? Either something is nothing or something is a thing. Because both are something. You know what I mean? Like
interesting.
Space is just the opposite of doing something. It's like, were you intuitively leaving space because it needed it? Or you just didn't know what to do, which could be a dope place to leave space.
Interesting, man. That's incredible. I'm so blown away by that. Let me ask you this: as far as a takeaway, working with two giants like that, Betty Carter and Abby Lincoln. If I asked you, what do you think you learned most from working with those ladies? And like I said, you've been doing this for over 30 years. You've worked with so many people, and those two, what I would say without question, are two pivotal points in your career. But what do you think you learned most from working with two giants like that?
Oh, I learned how to be consistent.
Hmm.
I learned how to ask for more. I learned how to take care of the things that I create and protect them with the means that we have legally to do so. I've learned that I can make other kind of deals in life, and you get what you negotiate for. So you don't get necessarily get what you're worth, get what you negotiate for, and
Hmm.
you develop your negotiating skills, and knowing when to take less and when to take more. I learned about benefits. I learned about honorariums. I learned to ask for money every time I do something. It's just how you ask. Okay, you're not paying, so what's the honorarium? Like, it's all kind of shit, man. It's backdoors, everything.
Yeah.
I learned about the history of the music, like how it really goes. I learned how music goes, not just how to play music, but how the thing goes. This is what we do, this art form.
Yeah.
And all the other ones that kind of come out of this master art form. So it's like the things I learned are, I would say, I intuitively from being in such bands. Even I would include Roy in this. Just really how to maneuver within greatness. How
Yeah.
to
Roy
how
was incredible, man.
Yeah, and how to respect greatness and not just to be the greatest one on stage. Like how to get even greater people around you and still shine and help. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people are scared of greatness. They'd rather have some sad folks on stage so that they could shine, as opposed to having really greatness on stage to push them. People that
Hmm.
would actually support their growth because they have the capacity to do that. And
Yeah.
a lot of people are just holding on, man, and you're looking like you're just pulling them along. I'm just pulling us. Nah, that shit don't work because you don't grow. You know,
Right.
Betty knew we were some bad boys, whether we knew it or not. She
Mhm.
knew how to tap into the potential. Abby knew how to tap into the potential because her main thing was about telling a story. So she wanted the maximum dude. She wanted the dude that could do all of that crazy shit. But in a phrase, in a chord, just you knew so much about how to do it that you don't need to do it because you know how to play the right chord that gives you that feeling of I'll just play the one chord cling at the right time. That's the guy she wanted. But you'd have to know all that other stuff in order to be able to pull that off.
Yeah.
But once you start playing that other shit in her band, she's like, "Yeah, I don't need that. I need you to remember what I asked you to do. It's about the story. It ain't even about the melody. It's about the story. So if
Story.
my voice is cracky tonight, that's not the thing. The thing is the struggle to tell the story becomes more important. She told the
Mm.
story through the struggle of trying to get her voice to do that. It's still about the story. It's not about she sang so beautifully tonight and that's not what she was about. Maybe she did sing extra beautiful tonight. But yesterday she sang with phlegm in her throat. But she did it to tell the story. So it becomes about the struggle of because they sing with their body.
Mhm.
Every day is something new for the body. So a singer is only as good as today and how she can push through the struggle. Like I have a button I can push, no matter how sad I feel or weak. As long as I can get my forearm to pull the weight of my arm to the fingertips, I can get my sound. They got to push through whatever's nasal post nasal drip or backed up ears or throat hurting. You know what I mean? Like or maybe whatever habits that they might have that are actually inhibiting what they like to do the most. Sometimes
Mm.
people fight through that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, Mark, I wanted to ask you, I believe your debut recording, Carry On. Tell me about that. What were you trying to say on that recording, man? Your very first recording.
Right, right. Uh, well, it's a long time ago, but it's very vivid because first of all, I did everything to produce the recording as you know it. I recorded the guys. I made cassette tapes and shot the cassette tapes. I made my own album cover on the first Mac, personal Mac that you could get.
Hmm.
Had the screen, everything was in one. I see that I can't remember the name of it. It was in grayscale. I did a cover album on a grayscale computer, man. I figured out how to do all that shit. You know, I still got all of the work too. I got it in this box over here. But my point was, it's the same one I've always had since High Integrity Band and Show. Uh, Economy, uh, getting the sound out in the world, making our presence known, bringing awareness to indigenous people, um, also, giving thanks to people like Dizzy Gillespie and those masters and the opportunities I had, like in Roy's band and Abraham Burton and Arthur Taylor, all these people who I recorded for and with on this very label, Inja. I ended up on Inja. I was trying for Atlantic at first, and then the wonderful lady Michelle, who's my manager now, she was head over there. She was like, "Oh, we just signed Cyrus." I was like, "Oh, wow, that's good for Cyrus. Good for him." You know what I mean? And then I got over to Verve, and oh wow, we just signed Stephen Scott. So they had that cookie. They had that one black cat, young black cat that they was gonna put. That was it. After
Yeah.
that, y'all could just sit and wait. So I was like, yeah, I ain't gonna be sitting around waiting. So I made my own shit and shot my own record, and that's been kind of like how I moved around. Shopping my own stuff and getting deals and learning how to make a deal. Like you gotta learn this stuff. Like I had to go get my record back from all of these labels. And make deals with them and get lawyers to you know get these people out of contract because they none of them uh, you know like dealt with the contract. The moment you sign your name over, they just start fucking you. So it's part of my language, but
Oh,
that's
that's
what
okay.
yeah, that's what's happening.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what I dealt with my whole career, and that's why my wife and I have made this company, Intrinsic Artist Music, and we help the elders and the legacy artists and the young artists. So it doesn't happen to them, but we help the legacy artists get back in contact with their work and their intellectual property and the money that's being collected on behalf of them that's not going to them.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. Thanks for sharing that. I appreciate you doing that. I also wanted to ask you about some of the other artists that you've worked with, like Lauryn Hill and Erica Badu. Tell me about that, man. What was that like working with those ladies?
They're all incredible. Now, I just it's funny how Erica's. I just have to always be explicit about how I worked with Erica, and I was all
Sure.
fortunate of being in Roy's band and working on the RH Factor with him. I helped him write the music for that, and by means of giving him a computer. I gave him that very computer that I started writing doing my album cover on. But he didn't have any kind of thing, any digital media to write on at that time. He didn't have a sequence or anything. So I gave him that as I got a new one, and
Hmm.
had studio vision on it. And we was writing. I spent a lot of time trying to show him how to use the program as opposed to writing the music. But he got
Right.
to me after a while. But through that project, I got to work with Erica, and then I worked with her several other times. A couple at the Irving Plaza. Yeah, she did a couple things up there, and a couple other opportunities I've had when she was down with the Roots and doing the Black Lily thing, and so I was a big part of that early start. But they're wonderful people, wonderful artists, just entrepreneurs in their own way, and they all Erica and Roy come up together, so there's an intrinsic and very kindred vibe about how they operate, and their love for each other was kind of how I was infatuated with her as much as her music. Lauren Hill, I MD'd her band for a while, for a short period of time. Um, it was quite an interesting, thing to work with her. She's wonderful, wonderful lady. There's a lot of stories I could tell, but the only one I would really want to share is that, it was really great to work with her. It was an experience I'll never forget. and for many reasons. One, because it was really great to see such a talent that close, to be that close to her, and see how she works. Everyone doesn't work the same way. Some people have their way, and you just gotta you deal with it or you can't. Get out the way, Hopefully you can get out the way. Some of the shit that you have to deal with, but she's an incredible talent, and she's everything they say she is, and to the point where Tina Marie came up to me while we were waiting to do the show, and she looked at my shoes. I had on my gaiters, I had some Cobra joints on, and she was like, I like them kicks. I was like almost fell down, man. Tina Marie told me she liked my kicks, man. My
Yeah.
legs started wobbling. I literally was gonna I could have just killed over, just like bam. Catherine had to wake me up. Yo, what happened? You know. But I got a chance to sit there and talk with her and just tell her how much I admired all her work too. And I mean, she didn't say nothing about my work. She was talking about my shoes. She hadn't even heard me play at that point. So I started talking about her work, but it was great, to be in that kind of company of a person that would attract a Tina Marie. And I swear that show was an hour, 2 hours late, and everybody stayed, waited for us. It was at the Congress Center in Chicago. About 5,000 people in there, and Lauren ended up talking to three of the people personally for about 20 minutes. I was like, oh my God, what the fuck is going on? But
He's so nice, man.
it was a wonderful show. Nevertheless, I think the people still had a good time, even though we only played like 3 songs out of the many that we were gonna play. So that
I'll
was
tell you that her recording she did over 20 years ago, that Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, still holds up, man. That's one of the greatest recordings ever. You
see
know,
a lot to do a recording, and I swear all her input was great, and I really want to give homage to all the other cast that were involved in making that happen, because it just doesn't
Mhm.
happen by osmosis just because you're great and talented. Somebody got to help you cultivate that and bring it out, and
Now,
you.
Mark,
Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, I was just going to say, you're also an educator, man. And now, is that something you enjoy teaching? Are you still at Juilliard and Manhattan School of Music? Both of those on your free time? Tell us
Oh,
about that, man.
oh, I think it's wonderful to be thought worthy enough to pass information on. Obviously, I have information that people can't even get a hold of anymore. So I'm kind of a holder of particular knowledge, and I'm thankful that people consider it worthy of having me involved and being able to make a living sharing it. That being said, I got some incredible young cats coming up, and like I'm at the forefront of seeing all of them at the beginning or in somewhere. Some of them are in the middle of their journey, or not just at the beginning. They've been doing this for a long time. A lot of prodigies out here, and people that have been embracing their instrument for a long time. So being around those kind of talents is humbling and encouraging and energizing, and it's a responsibility. It's a big responsibility to help people fulfill their dreams, and of course they're paying for it, with their time and their money. So really being able to give them 100% all the time has been a challenge in the midst of trying to be a developing artist still myself. I haven't arrived anywhere. So teaching is always funny because I'm always in motion. I'm always relearning the very same information I'm sharing. So it's still new. It's still being hashed out. This kind of this kind of thing we're doing is not like you don't get to a point where you say this is it, and even if you make a book, this book is just like a moment in time, because then you evolve from the book, and so do the people who use the book, hopefully. So I'm just hopefully more of an example of someone that still has the sense of fantasy in the music. I still see the fun in it. I still enjoy practicing. I enjoy creating sound. I enjoy organizing rhythm. Enjoy working with artists and developing a sound together, and working through the struggle to get to it, because it is. You got to get people together. You got to organize. You got to personalities. You got people with mental difficulties but are very talented that you got to navigate around. What's the best way to talk to people? like this etiquette. Sometimes you want to get something done, but this particular group is not going to do that, and you can't push them to do that. So you have to know how to utilize them for the best thing they can do that evening until you get back to whatever it was you were doing your big thing on. So every moment is the moment. It's not the one that we recreate shit I used to do. Like, you got to be in this moment right now. The drummer might not show up tonight, and because he had a problem, and you have to get someone else from the audience tonight, because so luckily they came and just happened to have their cymbal bag in the car. And within the time that they get their cymbal bag to the time they're setting it up, you're telling them, listen, man, this first song is going to be like, it starts off in 5 and then it goes into 6. Matter of fact, don't worry about that shit, man. We're just going to do a blues because I know that's something we can get right to it on. But check it out. The blues is going to have a little thing on it. We all know what a blues is, so I don't have to tell you what that is. But this arrangement, like, you get this shit done in moments.
Right.
And then you look at the audience and say, ladies and gentlemen, bam! And you say, man, thank God that I had the wherewithal to be able to explain that I wanted to achieve something different than the regular thing that night, which even put him on point to just say, let me try something different. Or I have the opportunity to be a little freer than I normally would.
Mm-hmm.
I want to give people that feeling like they can be a part of this thing. So, like, I learned that from Betty and Abby. What part I could be a part of.
Yeah.
They were very specific about how involved you could be, but, like, be totally involved in this part. And I cover the rest.
Wow. I'd say about maybe 12 years ago, actually, it was 2010, Mark, the first time I saw you was at the Clifford Brown Jazz Festival. And I was about to ask you about Cindy Blackman. At the time, she and Carlos weren't married yet. They were about to. But tell me, how did you meet her? How did you get to work with her? Because every time I see you guys, man, it's always an incredible show. I just caught you a couple weeks ago at Keystone Corner in Baltimore. What a show. What a show. And it's always the two of you driving that band. How'd you meet Cindy and get to work with her?
That's big sis. Wallace and Cindy were together when I met Cindy. And,
Yeah.
We got a lot of family involved. Ron Sutton Jr., who was in Baltimore, in Delaware at the time. We played the Clifford Brown Festival. He's got family from up there, but that's my man. He was one of my teachers, and he's the cousin of Antoine and Wallace. So I've always had this connection with Antoine and Wallace, and I like the way they play. I like their intent. I like the fact that they go for this sound, and that's the sound that I go for. Because of this kindred, relationship between Ron Sutton. And so anyway, when I went to New York, the reason why I decided to actually go at that point, besides the motivation to leave D.C. for the safety of my life at the time, and also to seek, my father, and also to seek the challenge of this music we call jazz, I had a place to stay, which was at Antoine Roney's house. Wallace provided me with the opportunity to play in the band, A Promise, and I had a job at Columbia University, Columbia Hospital, Columbia Presbyterian, delivering mail within the hospital. So like I had all these things set up. I could open up a bank account, got an apartment the first week I was there, and like moved on it. And I was practicing with Cindy and Wallace. I was actually babysitting their house when they go on tours. And I'd be the guy that's listening to Wallace with all the different mouthpieces. How does this one sound against this horn? And then he put this other one in. Now this one should be like, and then Cindy be like, how does this tip of this stick sound on this cymbal? Okay, how's this sound on that cymbal? All right, let's play it with this song. And I'm there when she wrote a lot of these songs. Some of the songs are still in the book. So I was like going to be on the album, but I wasn't sharp enough at that time. Like they gave me all these solos to transcribe of Herbie's and Herbie Nichols and Herbie Hancock and all these different cats, Chick Corea, and I had to kind of get that homework done before. By the time I got that done, they had already got a new cat in the band, and I got my slot later, but also was ready to go play with Betty and Roy and A.T. and all them cats now. So I did that, and then I hooked up with Wallace and them later, in the band context. But I got early recordings of Cindy's stuff. She'd take me in the studio, and I was always doing this electronic stuff, so a lot of cats weren't doing that back then. So
Right.
I had all the gear. I came to town with my gear. I had sequencers. I had all of this very same kind of stuff. A lot of it's just some of the same shit, but like a modern version or an updated version. But I was doing this in the '80s, you know.
Incredible, man.
And so Cindy and them saw use for this, and I got early recordings of some of Cindy's work where I'm playing like drones and she's playing against that with these melodies and Wallace soloing over it and Antoine. So Ira Coleman on bass, like, early stuff that, cats ain't gonna hear, but I've been messing around developing with them for years. Cindy is like one of my longest collaborators of that caliber.
Yeah, she's great, man. When I saw you guys in 2010, you guys were doing the music of Tony Williams, and no one loves Tony Williams more than Cindy.
Yeah,
Cindy loves him almost to the point of obsession, and
yeah,
she's just brilliant how she's taken what Tony's done and she's sort of taken it in a different direction, and it's
yeah.
beautiful. I always loved seeing what you guys do. Speaking of Wallace, man, it still hurts my heart. We lost him last year. I was actually with him, Mark, January of last year. He was at Blues Alley.
Yeah.
And I was talking to him about maybe doing an interview of some kind. I was about to start my show. He said, "Yeah, man." Then March, he was gone.
Yeah,
And what a talent, man! What a talent,
him so much, man. He was. This Fender Rose I have right here. This is Wallace's.
Oh wow! Oh wow! Really?
Yeah,
Oh
I
man!
bought that from Wallace, and he
Oh,
got it for Chick Corea. You
oh
know.
wow! Wow! That's incredible, man. I tell you, just beautiful. Now, listen, I wanted to do a little segment here with. We're gonna play a little game. I'm gonna name some pianists. There's no right or wrong answer, man. Just say the first thing that comes to your mind. And I know some of these cats have influenced you. First name, Bud Powell.
Everlasting,
Yeah,
always there in my mind, always on my mind. You know.
yeah,
Uh, well, he's for me one of the he codified the flow. And he understands how the mechanics work. So when you hear him play, he's playing. He understands like the inner workings of a clock. You know.
hmm
It's like yeah.
yeah. Mark, I mean, it's beautiful. His songs, Parisian Thoroughfare, Dance of the Infidels. And Jimmy Heath even told me, he says, Bud is probably the most influential pianist in jazz history. Everything comes from him. Uh-oh, you hit something for me?
Like that, but yeah, that's all you named all the ones I love. Yep.
Yeah, man. Next name, Thelonious Monk.
Oh man, well he's the teacher of those cats. You know,
Hmm.
a monk understood the five chords. He understood the connection between that. Like a lot of his songs are just he understands the cycles, how they work.
Yeah,
So that him and Mary Lou are the cats.
yeah,
They
yeah.
understand the math. Yeah.
Next name, Horace Silver.
Oh man, shit. That's family. Greg and I are really good friends. We've been a little out of touch, but I did his memorial. I put the music together for that.
Hmm.
And we had Buster Williams. We had all the cast, man. Yeah, but Horace he'd come out to our shows when I was playing when Blackout would come out to California because Greg would bring him out. Greg was taking care of him, his son. And he come out to give us so much love and support, man. But his music is the music that really made me understand form and kind of brought that funk together
Hmm.
with swing and made me understand how go-go is so important, which is my kind of my heritage, my indigenous music. So
Yeah, yeah. Next name.
the Native American roots he brought to the music. See, that's how
Yes,
my
he did.
guitars.
Yeah, yeah. Next name,
Go ahead.
Sonny Clark.
It's my man. Shit. Woo.
Y- y-
That's my man.
Hey,
He's a disciple of the music. He definitely got Bud. He got Monk. He got the whole system.
yeah,
And the funk. And he lived a hard life, man. I love Sonny Clark, man. I wish he could have been around longer.
yeah, yeah. Next name, Herbie Nichols.
Oh, Herbie, man, just one of the he's the salt of the earth, man. Herbie Nichols, man. Miles loved him. I think his just approach is romantic. It's got the heaviness of. It's got the weight of the music and the history. He understands how to do it in a chord. You know, like Betty or like Abby would say, "Give it to me in a chord."
Right, right, right. Next name, Elmo Hope.
Oh man, Elmo, shit, that's the other side of Bud, man. That's just like, the 360, like if Bud's at 12 o'clock, Elmo's at 6 o'clock, and it's this perspective on the music. He understands just like Bud did, and this has his own way of doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Next name, and I know two of these guys that I'm about to bring up, I know they've influenced you. Next name is Randy Weston.
Oh man, he's just well. See, Randy brought Africa into purview in a way that could be dealt with, the Ganawa, and he brought the understanding of the blues, where the blues came from. He traced that. So he through the Ganawan slave trade, with the Ganawan musicians who are not Ganawan, they're the Moors and the desert musicians, from Mali and Senegal. But these cats were called Ganawan because they were told to sleep. Ganawa means to sleep.
Hmm.
So, but the music they brought uh, at night after a whole full workday is what we think of as the blues now. We've codified it in the 12 bars, but if you go back and listen to what they're doing, that whole system is about exorcism. Their music is about exercising whatever the person has to get rid of, whether it's depression or exercising mental illness, exercising a lust for, whatever it is, you lust for. Like these kind of things, healing is meant to heal. It's so the people that play this music, it's purposeful. It's not just like a funky music to play. They're literally exorcism. They're exorcists. They're exercising the listener. So it's very particular how they take care of us. If you go through the whole system, it might take 3 days for the whole experience. Whereas, you can catch a concert and get a glimpse of it, but if you want to experience this music, this is a ritual. So that music right there, he showed us really from a Western point of view how to interact with it, but he also opened up the discussion to the deeper meaning of it and what it actually preceded in what we do.
Yeah, yeah. Next name, McCoy Tyner.
Man, McCoy, I'm so thankful I met him at such an early age, there's somebody snapped a picture of us when he came to Blues Alley, and I got a chance to ask him, like, how does this thing work? And he took time from me, man. It's a very serious moment, man. It's like he was trying to tell me, like, this shit is serious. It's got legs. It's got everything that you have to do in life is involved with the music, and it's a way of life, in fact, and it can determine a lot about your life if you accept it, and really so. He scared the shit out of me when I met him. I was like, wow, man, it's like, okay, I don't know if I had to really think about this. Like, he was almost like, man, if you're going to do this, you got to take this serious. He wasn't in that kind of pushing that way, but it was the weight of that. And he was very calm saying it. It was just like, oh my God. I felt the weight. I felt what he really was like, man, this is so serious. Like,
He's like this gentle giant.
him and Randy, though.
Yeah.
Randy, the biggest guy in the world, give you the softest hug. You just melt into this kid. It's like no end to come to the level of comfort. You never really feel him squeeze you. He doesn't go that far. You just always like, oh man, that's how you feel in his music. That's how you feel in his arm when he hugs you, man. I never really got a chance to hug McCoy, but to talk with him was that kind of feeling.
Yeah, I was very fortunate. I've talked to him and met him several times. He signed two of my recordings. One was Sahara, and he signed Love Supreme for me. But yeah, McCoy was special. Next name, Andrew Hill.
Oh, Andrew, man, he's incredible, man. He, Nasheet Waits played with him. A lot of cats played with I loved him,
Hmm.
and his spirit was just so beautiful, and really wish he could have hung out with us longer. But he really left us with a few gems. But those of us that got to see him live really get it, you know. But I love the way he worked with the quartets, and just brought that sensibility into the music, and sense of adventure, and also knowledge of the history, and such personal touch, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Next name, Cecil Taylor.
Oh man, that's one of my. You know, I did the memorial for Abby, and Cecil was one of the participants. So that was really great to be back around with him. But Abby and Betty loved Cecil. They had a love hate kind of thing. But ultimately, it was just all about the love. But they could debate, you know, and talk shit about each other, call each other all kind of cows and bitches, all kind of stuff, you know. I mean, I had some very rough memories of conversations in the background at Sweet Basil's. You sad mother, oh you old cow, and like all kind of crazy shit. Then the next day you see him drinking at the next club. It's like, okay, all right, I get it. But yeah, Cecil Taylor came up, pulled me up at a concert. I think we were out in the Netherlands somewhere, and he's like, "Yeah, come on in the room, man. Let me tell let me hear what you doing." And he put me in front of the Bosendorf because he loved Bosendorf. He's like, "You ever played a Bosendorfer?" And these are the two pianos that they brought for him to pick from for his concert. He was like, "Well, which one do you like?" Because I've started playing them. He was like, "Man, I like your touch." You know, I don't know if he was being humble, you're being nice to me, because I mean that man's got so much touch. You know, I mean, like touch is nothing to him. It's like so many ways to touch. I could touch it like that, touch it like that. I could do that. I could do everything. But for some reason, he said he gave me weight. You know, and like you carry that weight. Like you remembered me. By the time we got to Abby's memorial, which was years later, he was still, you know, Mark, man. You know, but he grabbed my hand, you know, and just really embraced me. He's really wonderful cat. I love him. I teach him in my classes. I think he's one of the most free musicians that I know because he knows so much about music. So
Mm-hmm.
all his little wild decisions are based in a deep, deep understanding of what he's doing, you know.
He's a genius, man. Genius. A few more. I'll do a few more with you. Next name, Kenny Barron.
Oh man, he's still here. He's one of the gentle giants as well. Very light spoken. If you can think he's very light spoken, but his words are heavy and his music is really just brilliant. He's a great educator. He's given a lot of us a lot of great information, either directly or indirectly. I'm more indirect. You know, I've always been too humble to ask him anything. I just observe, and there's been times where he's pulled up on me and showed me things that I needed to know. You know, so like he's really wonderful.
Yeah. Next name, Jerry Allen.
My big sis as well. I followed her, and when she was at Howard, I was at UDC. She was teaching at Howard. I wanted to go there, but for her, but then I wanted to be with the band leader that I was, big band leader that I went for, Calvin Jones. So I used to go over to Howard, hang out. But Jerry, I mean, we're together on Betty's dropping things. You know, we're both on that same album anyway. Her experience was separate from mine, but I just so loved her and her presence, and she's very soft spoken or lightly spoken unless spoken to, and you know I always had could get a couple words from her, you know, and she would always notice me, you know, in her presence, you know, so I'm very thankful for that. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. One more name. This guy's a friend of yours, Mr. Robert Glasper.
Yeah, yeah, Rob. Yeah, man. You know, as a youngster, uh, we used to go to, well, when he was younger, we went to his high school a few times, you know, Blackout and Roy's band. Them cats grew up on those albums, so you know, we just had very kindred uh, starting point in the music. You know, I just happen to be in those in an influence in some ways. Also, you know, Rob, that's my man. You know, he's got some of my credits by accident, but that's cool. You know, on Q-Tip's record, you know,
Yeah.
they miscredited the record. He ended up doing the video that to my music, to me playing. He's imitating me on the video, and from there he's been eating good. But I missed out on that one. But outside of that, man, I love him. I think he's a great young man. I think he's, a wonderful artist, and I think he's having a great success as, a musician.
Yeah, and like I said, there's so many other pianists I didn't mention: Mulgrew Miller, James Williams, Jason Moran, your good friend Lafayette Gilchrist. There's
I
so
know
many.
all of them, man.
Yeah, I know. I know
Like,
you did.
Mogu, I spent time with Mogu as my teacher. Jason, me and Jason talk quite often, but Jason stole my band, I came out with Trillium, and I didn't have enough momentum behind me, man. He had enough momentum, and he even called his band the bandwagon. I was
Yeah,
like,
that's
man,
right.
you did get on my bandwagon, you motherfucker, but I love it though. You kept my boys alive, and you fed their families, and them cats work. I mean,
Yeah,
still working. So like, I was so happy, And then he and I just have such a great appreciation for his artistry, the way his mind works. I always joke about him taking my band. I mean, literally, I was pissed off about that, but now it's jokes.
yeah, yeah. I was going to ask you, have you ever written anything for film, or would you be ever interested
Yeah,
in doing? Yeah.
I've done scores. Yeah.
Okay. Is that something you enjoy doing? Talk about that process of writing for film. What is it like as opposed to just maybe, just putting out a recording of your own, writing for a film as opposed to just doing something on your own?
Well, I mean, writing for film can be a lot of things. It has a lot to do with what the director wants. It has a lot to do with how much leeway you have to do you. Some of it just could be, actual scoring is particular. It's like what 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 needs to be there, what doesn't need to be there, because it's all about the story. It's not
Hmm.
about your music. Your music should be almost incidental to what's happening. It should just be something that enhances it. So, not taking yourself too serious in those moments, and also really being able to capture, the complexities and the simplicities in the moments, and just be able to tap into that musically, or even silence can be music. So knowing when to use silence, when to use the theme, how to develop a theme that actually relates, it gives you the sense of what you're seeing. So it's very humbling, because people are always going to have something to say. Ooh, I like this, but I wonder if da 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 da. There's a lot of input that goes with it. So you just have to be the kind of person that can redo something and can change on a dime. You also have to technologically be able to fulfill the job. Like, there's a lot of cats that I know can arrange but don't have a computer to arrange on. You got to still transcribe what they do, pay somebody to do that, and then get it digitally input. It's like cats don't take their knowledge to the next technical dimension. Therefore, they can't participate in certain things. For me, I'm always technically moving forward and trying to keep, you know, present with how I want to flow and what's actually happening. So, like, had gotten a lot of opportunities because I could do it, and so
Hmm.
I learned how to do the thing because I was more technically able to do it at the time. So that's also one thing informs the other and gives you the opportunity to learn. I wasn't necessarily prepared when I did my first one, but I'm much more prepared now. I'm writing a score now for a documentary that'll be coming
Wow,
out soon.
nice.
Yeah.
Man, you have to keep us informed, and maybe we can have another conversation again, ongoing discussions.
Yeah.
But listen, brother, I want to thank you so much for being on Jazz Talk. You're a class act, a brilliant mind. I love the stories, man. Just some insight into, working with these giants like Betty Carter,
Right.
and Abby Lincoln. And it's just been a pleasure. You're a class act, man. Hang on, I'm about to close out the show. Well, you've heard it from Marc Cary. And as the saying goes, if the music grooves and makes you move, it must be jazz. I'm Preston Williams with Jazz Talk signing off. Peace.